Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments, and this is day 4 of our 12 days of Christmas layouts. Just wanted to show you a quick, relatively quick, double page layout for if you, I don't know about your family, but we used to go hunting for our Christmas tree out in the woods, and so I'd get some great pictures of all the kids hunting through the Christmas tree farm or the forest, trying to find our tree that we were going to decorate. And so this is kind of a cool layout to put those pictures on. I'm going to show you how to do this. This is a double page layout. You'll notice that the tree is right in the center, and so it does separate, and the tree is on both pages. If you don't like to do that, you can move your tree to one side or the other, and then you would have all your photos together. But I just wanted the tree to be kind of in the middle just for fun. So we're going to go ahead and start by gathering our tools. And to do this layout, you're going to need your Creative Memories wavy trimmer. That's going to create the wavy effect on the boughs of the tree. You're going to need some, working our way down, you're going to need a border maker cartridge to go around the outside. I'm using this border maker cartridge that has kind of a tree-like bough on it, if you can see that. It's an older one, but if you have something similar, that would be great. And that just goes around the edge on the outside. I'm also using the Holly Punch. This came out this year, so it's currently available. And I'm also going to use my straight trimmer. We're going to use some bronze shimmer paper, and then papers from the, oh sure, because it just went out of my head. That's just crazy. How did it go out of my head? The name of this paper pack that just came out this year, and I've got a bunch of it right here. Snowbound, goodness. Okay, so this is our Snowbound paper pack, and we're going to use both sides of several of these pages. So you'll need these two with the kind of bubbles and the wind on them. Those are going to be our base, and then these 3 other papers are going to form the tree. And you're also going to need some white cardstock and some navy cardstock. All right. And if you have some gold shimmer with like gold glitter paper, I also use just a little bit of that for the star at the top of the tree. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to cut our wavy pieces. So I'm going to set a bunch of this aside here real quick so that we can do the wavy pieces. All right, so you'll need your wavy trimmer, and we're going to use the bumpier edge, not this lazier swell at the top. Let me go ahead and move our tree as well, our original, so we don't get that in the process. Set that up here. All right, so we're going to cut, and you can see I already have used this side of the paper, but I'm going to use the other edge just so that I can make some fresh cuts for you. So what I did was I just slid my paper in all the way to the edge of the trimmer over here. I used that edge as just so that I had a really good common measurement. And you're going to line it up on the first grid line in, not on the bumper, but on the first grid line in, so that you have equal humps all the way across your paper, and they're not skewed to one side or another. Go ahead and set that paper aside. And then, oh dear, okay, this one already has some humps. So let me just go ahead and trim those off so that I can make this measurement the same. All right. I hope you're enjoying your holiday season. It's been such a fun season around my area where I live, although pretty dry for this time of year. I live in Utah and we've not had much in the way of snow, although we're supposed to be getting a couple more storms. All right, so there's another piece. And I'll do this final piece. All right. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to get our blue cardstock. And we're going to cut this using the same the same shorter, or I don't know what you call that. Swell number one with the multiple bumps. I'm going to place my paper out just about 1/4 of an inch, and we do have an extra arm on this trimmer, so you can pull that out if you want to be super accurate. But I think what I'm going to do is I'll just push this out to measure at the 5 mark. And again, we want to make sure that we've got the same or the humps centered on the paper. So we're going to cut 3 of these pieces. So 1, and here we go with 2. And I need to trim this so I have a smooth edge. Not too quick. Let's try it again. Goodness, what's my problem here? All right. There we go. And again to the 5 measure, and then pull it back so that you are even, or you're centered. All right. Oh goodness. Guys, I'm having a hard time this morning. Let's just trim that. It was pretty close. Just didn't push down quite hard enough. All right, so we're done with our trimmer. We can set that aside. Now we're going to take these and we're going to do a couple of educated guesses. Okay, so you'll notice that each of these pieces, as it goes up the tree, is slightly smaller than the other. They do decrease by about 1/4 of an inch. Cutting them can be a little bit tricky if you're fussy about making sure that everything is symmetrical. So we're going to cut the colored paper first, the printed paper. Then we're going to mount it on the cardstock and trim the cardstock on the sides to match it. All right, because your arch is already done. So here we go. We're going to start with the blue snowflake pattern. Now we're going to use our trimmer, a 12-inch trimmer. And I wish that I could tell you that there is a specific angle already built into this trimmer that you could use, but actually there really isn't. So what I would recommend is that you start just a little ways in from the corner down here as your upper angle, and then just choose by looking at your cutting line how much of an angle you want to give each of your boughs on your tree. You need just a little bit extra up here to allow for the extra in your background, in your mounting cardstock. And then each of these boughs is going to be angled the same. So what I would do is choose maybe the 4 line here. We're going to put the point where you're going to start cutting. It's going to be at the 4 line. And then just move it over slightly till it's at the cutting line next to it. I know that might seem confusing, but because we want to cut not in the corner, but just in a little bit, we're going to move the point over just about 1/8 of an inch, okay? And we're going to take a note of where the point is on this corner of our paper. So I'm going to angle mine so that the place where I'm starting up here is at the 4 line. Sorry, it moved down. The 4 line. And my point of my paper is at 6.5. Okay, so the 4 line is where I'm starting to cut. And my paper is at 4.5. This will help you later so that you can make all your cuts the same. So we're going to cut that piece. Then we're going to decide, okay, I want this piece to be roughly 6 inches wide. Let's go maybe 6.5 inches wide. Yeah, let's do 6.5 inches wide. And I'm just gonna get my pencil and put a little mark there at 6.5. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark that paper on the other side, approximately the same place, and flip it over. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to find a 4 line, put that mark on the 4 line, and then move it over to the, or no, actually, I beg your pardon. I don't need to move it over. So put the mark on the 4 line. Then we're going to turn the paper so that, actually, this is where your how did I do this, guys? Okay, let's see. Here we go. So your other paper that you used can be kind of a guide as to your angle. Once you get the first one, you can use it as a pattern. So the first cut really is the trickiest. All right, so I think that's pretty close to the same angle. All right, happy with that. No trees are exactly symmetrical anyways, so it's okay if it's not quite the same. All right, now we're going to go ahead and use these same angles to cut this other piece. And I'm going to line up my straight edges so they are the same. All right, and this piece is 1/4. Here, let me show you. So we started off at roughly 6.5 inches wide for this piece. we're going to go in a quarter, in a half, and in another quarter. So we're going to go in 3/4 of an inch and make this one 5 3/4 inches wide. If we have that, let's see if we have that in this piece. Actually, I think this one's going to be 5 1/4 instead, which is fine. Actually, might need to make this a little bit smaller. It's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and what I did when I made this initially was I matched the swell on this side, and then I lined it up over here. And then what I did was I went over however far in we needed to go. So we need to make this one only 3/4 of or we need to go 3/4 of an inch smaller. So we're going to go 3/4 of an inch, and then we're going to cut this other side. I'm just going to use this as a guide for the angle. So I know that's hard to see because those papers match, but I'm going to match my straight edges so they are the same, and I'm going to line up my paper so that my cutting line is right on the same edge with my sample piece. And then I will get the same angle out of that. All right, so we've got this piece, we've got the third piece up, our second from the top, and we're going to do this piece because this is the next one up from the bottom. So turn this one, and again, we're going to line this up on the cutting edge right here like this. So we're straight. Then we're going to go over just 1/4 of an inch because this one needs to be 1/4 of an inch smaller. And we're going to cut. We're going to match it up again. Go on here and line it up 1/4 of an inch. Now you'll notice, so 1/4 of an inch on our trimmer is the right-hand edge of our mat. But if you're cutting the opposite way, 1/4 of an inch is this groove that is right here in the trimmer. So 1/8 of an inch would be the edge of your mat, 1/4 of an inch would be that groove. So I'm going to actually line up my sample. The edge of my original piece is going to be lined up with this groove because I want 1/4 of an inch off of each side to make this smaller. And I may need to recut this piece, but we'll see. And so you can see that by doing that, our edges are similar but not exact, and our tree will look similar as it goes up. Okay. And the next piece is done using this paper with the snowflakes, the green paper with the snowflakes. And we can take our piece we just made and use it as our sample. Match up the arches. And instead of, this is going to be a 1/2 inch smaller on each side from our original piece, but because this one's already 1/4 of an inch, this is already getting more math than I enjoy. But if you're a math person or a quilter, then this is right up your alley. All right. You just go in another 1/4 of an inch to bring this piece slightly smaller. So again, we're lining it up on this crack just to the left of your cutting line. All right, so that way you're cutting a 1/4 of an inch in to make that next piece. And then we're going to flip this over, and this is the piece we make the top piece out of. So let's just check this one, make sure that that's going to work. I think that'll be fine. All right, so we need to bring this piece in about a 1/4 of an inch. So let's find our common ground with our curves. This is how you make the curves kind of match in your tree. If you don't care about making the curves match in your tree, then it's not as important. Just make each piece a 1/4 of an inch shorter on each side. So about a 1/2 an inch shorter all together, and all will be well. All right. Sorry, this part does take the longest amount of time with this particular layout. All right, so there's our topper. Now, most trees need one more piece, and that is the base. So you'll notice I cut the base out of the beautiful birch paper that comes in this pack, in the snowbound pack. And I also went ahead and mounted it on the navy cardstock. So we're going to use our birch paper. You can make your angle the same or you can make it different. It's completely up to you. But make sure that this curve that you have, that's the curve that's going to go on the bottom. The flat edge is going to be underneath the first bough of your tree. So choose what's pleasing to you as far as this arch goes. And I know that's really hard to see on the trimmer because the trimmer's white and the paper is kind of white. So, but just make sure that you like that arch, and you can make your trunk as angled or as not angled or as wide as or as not wide as you want. It should have a little bit of an angle. I probably need to give it a bit more one. That it's not super angled there. There we go. That's probably better. More, not much. Otherwise, our trunk won't look right with our great big huge tree. Okay, I think that's probably better. All right, now we're going to go ahead and adhere these pieces to our cardstock that we've already cut. And you can use repositionable adhesive if you want to. I'm going to, just in case I need to lift it up and do something else with it. And this is a little bit of a puzzle. You get to kind of fit the pieces where they will go. And trust me, you can get all of them on 3 sheets if you are careful. If you're a good puzzler. Are you a good puzzler? I think we do maybe 1 puzzle a year, so we are not super efficient at puzzling, but you know, we're not horrible at it. It does take a little bit of patience and diligence. So here's my biggest piece, and I went ahead and put that one down because that one's pretty much guaranteed to need the biggest amount of room. And then each of these other pieces is also going to need a fair bit of room. So it's good to kind of lay them out and play with them. But They should all fit pretty easily. Follow the arch and give it just roughly that 1/8 of an inch, or even a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch, just to give it a little bit of an edge across, and then we're going to trim it. So go ahead and add your adhesive to all your corners. Remember, you only need just a little bit of this adhesive. You don't need to overdo it. I've seen people add just like with their permanent tape runner, when they felt like they needed a ton, they would just go all the way down the side. It's really not necessary. This adhesive that has been designed for us is so good that it will hold, and you don't have to worry about it as much. Now, if you were trying to hold an envelope together or something like that, that's going to have something stuck down inside of it, that might be a different matter. Because when you have pressure applied from something on the other side or in between, then you'd want to use a different kind of adhesive. But for something like this, just a little bit in each of the corners is sufficient. I'm just gonna, almost done. Got one more piece after this one. There we go. All right, now we're gonna get our trimmer back out. And we're gonna trim these up and they will be ready to go. So remember, you can see where your trimmer is cutting. You can see that groove, but you can also see where your trimmer is cutting by looking at the little pointer that's in here, or you can pull out a sightline guide from the end of your the end of your trimmer. These hide right down here on the edge, but if you slide one of those little guys out, it's got a line on there that'll show you right where it's going to cut. So you can see exactly before you go ahead and run your blade through it. And we just want an even border, just all the way around, as even as you can. You don't have to worry about the top though, because nobody's going to see that part. Couple more here. Hopefully all of your family at home were well enough to go hunting for a tree this year. You know, it was in our area, it's been unseasonably warm, so not as many winter colds, sometimes viruses, but definitely not as many winter colds as we tend to get around here, which is good. Makes for a much more fun season when everybody's well, right? Okay, one more to cut and trim up. And then we are good to go. We can cut our borders. We'll be just about ready to put this page together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set my trimmer aside and get my border maker out. And I'm actually going to need my trimmer because the paper that I'm going to use, at least my paper, has an arch on each side, so I need to turn that up so that I have a flat side that can go into my border maker. There we go. Okay. So if you're familiar with the border maker, we're going to go ahead and slide our paper into the guide. Secure it with our magnet arm and flip that guide back underneath. And we're going to use, here it is, set it to the side. All right, we're going to use our bow border maker cartridge. Just a little bit. Okay. Mine seems to be getting caught. There we go. That's better. Okay. It's just paper, so it will bend. Over there. And use the arm out again. We're going to cut 4 of these. We're going to go all the way around the outer edge of our 2-page spread. I'm going to try this one going the other way. Maybe it will be less apt to catch. Maybe not. When I made the sample, I don't recall it catching like that. That's funny. All right. There's 2. We're gonna do 2 more, and then we will be done with that. You will still need your wavy trimmer, so hopefully you didn't put that too far away. Here I am going the other direction again. It did seem like it kind of liked it better when we went this way. Okay. One more and we'll be done. And then we'll need that wavy trimmer, like I said, one more time. All right, so you'll notice my paper doesn't quite make it to my magnet. So let me show you a trick for making it, still making it possible to use this piece in our border maker. If you have some sticky notes, just grab your sticky notes, attach them to your paper. Okay, and you can put your paper right where it needs to be here in the guide. And then when you close the magnet arm is going to hold on to the sticky notes, which are attached to your paper. All right. And then that way you can keep on punching. Because we only needed 1 more. So there we go. Now we have our 4 borders to go around the 4 edges. Let me do a little bit of cleanup here. Oh. It's done. Now we need our, sorry, we need the wavy cutter one more time because we need to cut our snow that's going to go across the bottom. See our snow right here? And actually, I don't know if you can tell on camera. There, that's probably better. There are 2 layers of snow. I cut one going one direction and one going the other direction using the longer curve, this one, on our trimmer. So we're going to go ahead and measure this just at 1 inch. So we're going to put this paper right at the very edge, the edge of our trimmer here. And remember, we're going to center our arch, so we're going to move it down so that the edge of our paper is at that very first notch on, not on the bumper at the very bottom, but on the first line up. Make sure that we haven't adjusted our edge on this side. There we go. Okay. And we're going to go like that. And then we're going to, I always find it tricky to do this, but I want to cut using my trimmer because I need another straight edge. I want this to be the same width as, so that when I put them together, they will line up just perfect. And they are, that is about an inch. So when I put this in here, I can put this corner right at 1 inch and then cut this, and it should fall just perfectly in line with the other piece. So we're going to set that aside here real quick. It's a little bit of a juggling act, sorry. And we're going to just do one more because remember we have 2 pages. So if you are doing this as a 1-page spread, then you would not need to worry about the second one. But I always seem to scrapbook in 2-page spreads. So there we've got one more, and we're going to get our straight trimmer and trim this at 1 inch. There we go. Now we have all the pieces that we need to go ahead and put this together. All right, so let's grab our background pieces. Here they are. And this is a little bit of an unusual way of doing this, but I have found that it is the easiest way to keep you from losing too much hair. Okay, so take your 2 base pieces, and we're going to line up our base pieces right next to each other. Okay, so that your edges are right next to each other. This is your center. All right. Now, when you glue your pieces on, you are going to, well, I'm jumping the gun here. Let's just go ahead and we're going to put our snow down first. No, we're not. I beg your pardon. We're going to put our pieces that go around the edge first because our snow goes on top of them. So grab your 4 pieces that we cut with the border maker. And we're going to go ahead and adhere those. Make sure you're using repositionable adhesive. This is going to be super tedious for you if you're not using repositionable adhesive. But if you are, it just goes that fast and you can stick these right on. And I have them in off the edge by about a 1/2 inch. Just eyeball it. Doesn't have to be super spot on. Again, this is representing garland. Garland is not completely balanced and symmetrical. Things that happen in nature are not always balanced and symmetrical. So do your best, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and nobody's going to expect it to be perfect. So I apologize if you are the kind of person that really likes things to be super balanced and even. It might be a little bit too fussy for you to do it this way, but you can measure if it makes you more comfortable. I just don't feel the need to stress myself out like that. And for me, it would be stressing myself out. It might not be stressful for you, but for me, it would be. So here is piece number 3. And we've got one more piece to go across the top. And they do cross over one another in the corner, which is fine because we're going to add a cute little holly piece to that area, along with some little gems, just to kind of bring your attention a little more to that corner. And just a little bit here. All right, so now we're ready for snow. When you line these up, though, look at what I did. This is why I had you line them up for a second there, I forgot. So you want to make sure that your garland matches here in the center. So that's why we have repositionable adhesive, right? And this piece, this cut piece of this pattern, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, sorry. Is really forgiving if you need to kind of bend it or, arch it a little bit. This pattern, this bow pattern is really easily conducive to bending. So see how I just sort of bent that up a little bit so that those two pieces match. All right, so now we're going to do our snow, which is, I guess, what I've been trying to make us do for a while. Okay, so with our snow, you need the 2 hump piece in the back and the 1 hump piece in the front. All right, then we're going to go ahead and you can use repositionable adhesive for this if you are worried about it being too fussy. I usually don't find this too fussy, so I just go ahead and use my permanent adhesive. I speak from experience. I've had to do that before. Okay, and then this piece just goes straight across the bottom to give you your snow. All right, so we're gonna, might have noticed that I've used one of my pieces from a paper pack, front pieces from our paper pack as my paper, because this is made from CM cardstock. So there's no reason why I can't use this in my album. It'll be perfectly safe and no one will see the printed marks on the back. So I'm good there. Again, just a little bit of adhesive at the key points. Whether you're using repositionable or permanent, you don't need to go all the way across all your 12 inches or you'll use up your tape runner in no time and be howling at your advisor about how come your tape runner ran out so fast. That's why your tape runner ran out fast. All right. Now, this part is critical that we keep our pages in the, stuck in the same place. So what I'm going to suggest to you is if you're working on a mat, and most of us do like to work on mats, just take a little bit of your repositionable adhesive and put it right on your mat and glue those corners, right here, the corners of your paper to your mat. All right, then your paper is not going to slide around and this will go much faster for you. Okay, so we're going to build our tree now. And now you need to decide, do you want your tree to stand up straight? Do you want your tree to bend over with the wind? Do you want to, do you want it to go to the left? Do you want it to go to the right? All right, I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive. And I'm going to first put down the trunk of the tree. You're not trying to match any kind of angles here, but it is a good idea to center the smaller portion of the trunk so that you have some on each of your pages. So center it right across the crack here in the center so that you have a little bit of chunk on both sides. All right, adhere that down. Now, let's play with this just a little bit. Here's our base, which we're going to center. Then we're going to take our next layer, which was the stripe. And so you might remember that the tree that is in my sample is arched to the side, kind of like this, right? But since I already have one tree going that direction, I'm thinking I may want to go ahead and arch my tree going, this tree going the other direction, or maybe try and do a tree that's going both directions. Let's see, can we do one that's going both directions? That would be kind of tricky. We kind of need, how's that? Here's my center line right here. Kind of goes down both ways. I kind of like that. I'm kind of leaning both directions. That's kind of cool, I think. Okay, so when we adhere this down, again, we're going to use repositionable tape. That way, repositionable adhesive. That way, if you decide you don't like it, or you want to give more space for one of the pieces, you can just lift it right up and it won't be a problem. Okay, so I'm gonna make my bow kind of touch the snow on the side here, just to give it a little bit more of an arch. All right. You might notice I keep having to use my all-purpose tool. It's because my nails don't go under the paper. So all of you people with all your beautiful natural nails can feel free to boast about how you don't have to worry about that, because your nails are beautiful without needing reinforcement. I actually I can go grow decent nails. I just used to work in a clerical profession where I beat up on my hands all day long, and I'd come home and play with paper all night, and my nails looked pretty bad. So I started getting them reinforced with some gel, and I liked it so much I just never stopped. Now I don't have to work outside my home anymore, which is nice. All right, a couple more pieces and my tree is going to be put together. Going this way and that way. Ooh, come on, there we go. Okay. Now we're going to be ready for our tree topper. And for our tree topping star, I used a punch that looks like this from Creative Memories. It's called an open star. And it will punch the center out of this star and give me an outer edge. You can use any star that you like. This star is actually probably a little small, but it actually works because I don't really have a lot of room up there to put my star before my paper goes, or before we're off the edge of the paper. So I, at one point in time, just punched a whole bunch of these to make it really simple and easy to grab a star whenever I needed one. So I'm going to put that star right there. We're going to put a gold piece in the center and pop it up with some foam squares. So you'll want to use your bronze shimmer to punch whatever star you'd like, or your glitter paper if you have some. And again, I'm going to use my repositionable tape or adhesive. Sorry, I always say tape. It's not tape. It's obviously dots, but you know. All right, and we're going to just center that. And I'm not caring about the fact that my raw edges are gonna kind of stick out here. If you care about that, then you'll want to angle that top piece just a little bit more, but it's not really important to me, so I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna use one of my big squares because it fits perfectly on the back of this star. You have a little tiny bit of a corner showing, but that's not much. I'm going to angle that down and then one will even see. This star just fits right in the center of that other one. It gives it a little bit more dimension. Now, we also need to add some holly to our corners up here. And to do that, you're going to need one of your green patterned papers. And I used this one, the green one with snowflakes. I happen to have a smaller piece of it here, right here. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to just punch. I love the CM punches because as I get older, my hands are showing their age, not in wrinkles, but in arthritis. And some punches that I have from other places are too hard to punch, quite honestly. I can't do it. Sometimes I can, it just depends. But often they are just too hard to push and punch. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere, and you'll notice I'm using the flip side. I'm using this pattern paper rather than this pattern because I used this pattern to do the garland. They'll show up, it will show up a little bit better if I use this one right here. And again, repositionable adhesive. Use the larger leaf and point the larger leaf towards the center of your design. Okay. I don't know if you can hear my kids, they're singing. They love to sing, and I'm glad they love to sing. They just don't know that I'm recording down here. Okay, and then let's see, we've got these cute little embellishments. I'm sure you have some embellishments that you have kind of tucked away that were extra from some card kit or something. And so these are the embellishments that I used. Now you'll notice that there aren't maybe quite enough of the colors that maybe you will want to use. So just think outside the box, use a variety of sizes, use a variety of colors. You're going to just give it maybe 2 small ones and a big one right next to each other. Just to kind of give it some panache. Right there, maybe do the opposite big colored one on this side. Okay, now the fun part. This is the last thing we need to do, and then our layout is all done. Remember, we adhered our pieces without having, like, so our 2-page layout is actually one big page right now. So you're going to need to get your 12-inch trimmer out. All right. And we're going to slide this layout underneath and cut it apart. So make sure that your paper is level. You're going to put the dividing line between your 2 sheets. It's right on that cutting line. If you're not sure where that is, remember you have these sightline guides to be able to tell exactly where you're going to cut. So if you're not happy with where it's lined up, you can adjust your paper to make sure that it is exactly where it needs to be. All right, and you're going to start from the top so you're not cutting against your layers. Start from the top and just cut all the way through. Don't move it. Go up and down a couple times because you are cutting through several layers. Okay, and then you shouldn't have too many little extra thingies coming off like I just did. But apparently I got a little close on my edge there. All right. Now you have your 2-page Christmas tree layout all ready for your Christmas tree hunting photos from this year. I hope that you enjoyed making this layout with me today and having a creative moment. And I hope that you're busy making time for even more creative moments this holiday season. But if your holiday season's too busy, then save this and come back to it later and you'll have a creative moment in January. Thanks so much. You have a Merry Christmas. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 5 of our countdown of 12 layouts to Christmas. Thanks. You have a great day.